Breaking! Something terrifying was discovered buried inside a mountain in southwestern Poland. A Nazi armored train loaded with 300 tons of gold and priceless stolen artwork and ancient treasures looted from across Europe. And the men who found it said they would only reveal its exact location if the Polish government agreed to pay them 10% of the total value. We're starting this story in August 2015 in the Polish town of Wałbrzych. Two men walk into a law office carrying a briefcase full of documents. Their names are Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter. One is a construction worker who has been studying local legends for decades. The other is a German treasure hunter who has spent his entire inheritance chasing Nazi gold. They tell the lawyer they have made the discovery of a lifetime. Using ground-penetrating radar and magnetometer surveys, they have located a buried armored train. A Nazi military transport sealed inside a collapsed tunnel deep in the Owl Mountains. The lawyer is skeptical until he sees the radar images. The scans show a rectangular object over 300 feet long and 12 feet wide, the exact dimensions of a World War II-era German military train. The signal is surrounded by what appears to be armored plating. The lawyer immediately contacts the Polish Ministry of Culture. Within 48 hours, the deputy minister holds a press conference in Warsaw. He tells the assembled reporters that he is 99% certain the Nazi gold train exists. He has seen the radar images and he believes them to be authentic. The world goes absolutely insane. News crews from 47 countries descend on the tiny town of Wałbrzych within a week. Every hotel room for 50 miles is booked solid. Treasure hunters with shovels and metal detectors arrive by the hundreds. Local bakeries start selling train-shaped cookies dusted with edible gold glitter. Bars create Nazi gold-themed cocktails with gold flakes floating in vodka. The economy of a forgotten post-industrial Polish town is suddenly the hottest tourist destination in Europe. But why would a Nazi train be buried in a Polish mountain? To understand this, you have to go back to 1943. The tide of World War II had turned against Germany. Allied bombers were destroying German cities night after night. The Nazi high command made a decision. They would move their most valuable assets underground where bombs could not reach them. Project Riese, which means giant in German, was born. The Owl Mountains in southwestern Poland were chosen for their dense granite bedrock and existing railway tunnels. Over the next 2 years, more than 30,000 prisoners of war and concentration camp inmates were forced to dig a massive underground complex. 7 separate facilities connected by over 5 miles of tunnels. Some chambers were large enough to house entire factories. One tunnel was wide enough for 2 trains to pass side by side. The Nazis built underground power plants and ventilation systems and living quarters designed to survive direct bombing raids. The prisoners worked in 12-hour shifts in total darkness. Disease and malnutrition and execution killed thousands of them every month. By the time the Red Army arrived in 1945, most of the workers had been murdered and buried in mass graves to eliminate witnesses. But before they fled the Nazis, sealed many of the tunnels with concrete and explosives. What they hid inside has never been fully cataloged. Some historians believe the complex contained advanced weapons research facilities. Others think it held the stolen treasures of Europe. The Amber Room from the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg was valued at over $140 million. It was dismantled by Nazi soldiers and shipped to Königsberg Castle. When the Red Army captured Königsberg in 1945, the Amber Room was gone. It has never been found. Thousands of paintings and sculptures and gold bars and precious gems, disappeared from museums and private collections across occupied Europe. Much of it was never recovered. Theories about where it all went have circulated for decades. Some say it was loaded onto trains and hidden in the Owl Mountains. Koper and Richter were not the first to search. After the war, the Polish military and the Soviet NKVD excavated several of the Riese tunnels. They found empty chambers and collapsed passageways, but no treasure. Many believed the Nazis had removed everything before sealing the tunnels. But Koper and Richter had access to technology that previous generations did not. Ground-penetrating radar could see through solid rock. Magnetometers could detect massive metal objects hundreds of feet underground. And the images they produced convinced a deputy minister of a European government to go on television and declare that a Nazi treasure train was real. The Polish military spent 3 months scanning the site with 20 different types of equipment. Military engineers drilled test holes deep into the earth. They brought in thermal imaging drones that could detect underground cavities by temperature difference. They used gravimetric scanners that measured minute variations in the density of the ground. And then they released their findings. There is no train. The official report was devastating to Koper and Richter. It concluded that the radar anomaly was a natural geological formation, possibly an underground ice lens or a dense mineral deposit. There might be a tunnel at the site, but there was definitely no train loaded with gold. Koper and Richter refused to accept the findings. They held their own press conference and accused the Polish government of a cover-up. They claimed the military had deliberately drilled in the wrong location. They demanded that the government authorize an independent excavation at the specific coordinates they had identified. The government refused. So in 2016, Koper and Richter dug their own trenches with private funding. They dug down 30 feet and hit something solid. It was railway tracks, old rusted tracks embedded in collapsed tunnel debris. They also found fragments of tunnel wall construction material. Evidence that there was indeed a man-made structure at the site, even if it was not a train. But they found no gold and no treasure and no armored carriages. The excavation ran out of funding and the site was abandoned. Koper and Richter disappeared from the headlines and the tourists stopped coming to Wallbrich. But here is the thing that keeps this story alive. In 2023, a team of geologists from Wrocław University used new LiDAR scanning technology to survey the entire Owl Mountain range. LiDAR can penetrate forest canopy and reveal subtle ground features invisible to the naked eye. Their scans identified 6 previously unknown underground chambers within a kilometer of the original dig site. Chambers large enough to hold armored trains. The Polish government has not authorized any excavation of these new sites. The Ministry of Culture says further study is needed before any physical investigation can begin. But independent researchers believe the government does not want to find the train. If the train exists and it contains stolen artwork, then every museum in Europe would file claims for the return of their property. The legal battles would last for decades. The Polish government would be caught between treasure hunters demanding their 10% finder's fee and foreign governments demanding restitution of looted cultural heritage. It is simpler to let the mountain keep its secrets. But secrets do not stay buried forever. The Owl Mountains contain over 120 miles of unmapped tunnels. Most of them have never been explored by anyone alive today. Some are flooded with groundwater and require specialized diving equipment. Some are collapsed and would need months of careful excavation. Some are rumored to be booby-trapped with unexploded ordnance left behind by retreating German soldiers specifically to prevent anyone from recovering what they hid. So somewhere in those mountains, beneath millions of tons of granite, there might be a train loaded with gold and paintings and the lost amber room. Or there might be nothing but empty tunnels and broken promises. But until every chamber has been opened and every tunnel has been explored, every possibility remains on the table. And as long as there are men willing to dig the legend, we'll never die. If you want more stories about history's greatest lost treasures, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Forgotten Files. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another discovery, because the next treasure could be uncovered this year, and you will want to be the first to know what they found.